So welcome to our time together for these few minutes today. I would invite you just to settle in where you are physically. Allow yourself to settle in mentally, emotionally, and just really connect to the space where you have found yourself for these few minutes. Start to notice the connection to how you're seated, the parts of you that are connecting to the earth. Notice the physical feelings throughout your body, and then begin to notice your breath. There really is this ritualistic way that we arrive to meditation. It helps to ensure that the path is a bit clearer, a little less cluttered, and that no matter how many distractions there are around us, we find our commitment to this present moment, to this breath in and this breath out. So just notice, just scan through your simple and compassionate awareness how everything has arrived to this moment. And then whatever you notice about your breath, see if you can intentionally lengthen it just a bit. Trying to take in just a little more on that breath in, and then being just as intentional about how you release it out. And as you're doing that across these next few breaths, just see if you can feel from a physical level, an emotional level, an energetic level. See if you can feel a shift from how you were just minutes ago to how you are now. And as we're settling in, our focus today is the breath. And so I want to share with you the words of Yoga Sutra 134. It says, our calm is retained by the controlled exhalation or the controlled retention of our breath. And so before I share anything about that sutra, I would invite you just notice these next few breaths. Notice, what does that exhalation feel like to you? And is there an element of retention in your breath? Don't judge it. Don't think that you're doing it wrong or incorrectly. Just notice the exhalation and the retention. There are 3 distinct parts to every breath that we take. But truly, it's the inhalation that gets all the credit, gets all the attention. But what this sutra is telling us is that there is just as much power, just as much anchoring, settling in the exhalation and in the retention. It's not retention just for the sake of holding your breath. But the way that Patanjali describes this in the sutra is that it is retention through your control. And he goes on to say, as he begins to describe the meaning behind this one, he goes on to say that agitation comes to our mind so many times during the day. And oftentimes we'll just take a deep breath, we'll breathe in, hoping that that will lessen the agitation. But he pauses in Yoga Sutra 134 and he says, the true anchoring to bring us from a place of anxiousness, of agitation, is through the controlled exhalation and the intentional retention. And when you think about that, you start to realize there are 3 distinct parts to your breath and they all work together. And so I want us just to pause before we go on with any other thoughts or ideas about this. I'd like us just each to notice. See if you can really tap in to the slow control of your exhale. Maybe even letting it take longer to breathe out than it took you to breathe in. And once you do that just a few times, then begin to notice the retention right there at the top of the inhale, like you're savoring it. You don't want to let it go just yet. And in that holding, see what you notice. See if you feel a shift. And so again, just a few breaths, noticing the exhale. A few breaths, noticing the retention. Each in your own pace, at your own rhythm, whatever feels right for you. When we think about breath, the Sanskrit word we always refer to as pranayama, this forced or controlled movement of prana within us. Prana is this life-giving force. The Chinese call it your chi. In our translations, we call it our energy. But in Sanskrit, we call it prana. But there's another part to the true impact and benefit of what prana offers us, and that is the apana. So prana is this idea of moving the energy up. And you can feel it as you breathe in. But apana is the other side of that. That is the moving of the energy down. And when you think about these two forces working together, you all of a sudden start to see the importance of the exhale. Because we want these two forces to work in harmony. They're two sides of one coin. They're like the sun and the moon, the masculine, the feminine, all these things that have these two sides. So does our breath. So now start to notice the prana. And as you breathe in, see if you sit a little taller or you stretch your spine out a little longer and feel the pulling up, the shift. And then as you exhale, notice the bringing back down. I like to imagine it traveling up and down my spine so that as I breathe in, it leaves my tailbone, travels through heart center all the way up to the crown of my head. And as I breathe out, I'm allowing it to travel and settle back down the spine. And so just begin to notice that beautiful relationship of the breath in and the breath out, traveling up and traveling down. See if you can find the balance between the two without giving all the credit, all the wonder, the miraculous awe that we hold when we think about that breath in. Feel the same way about the breath out. And just notice, again, if there is a shift. And then one more element of this amazing tool of our breath is the idea of this exchange of gases that goes on inside of us. It's not about the biology of it. It is about the miracle of what happens when we breathe in and we breathe out. We're taught early on that when you're breathing in, you're taking in the oxygen that the trees and the leaves have provided. And when you breathe out, you're getting rid of the carbon dioxide, the things that you don't need. But what we have learned through thousands of years of study of breath, and that we now have the advantage today of understanding, is that it's not a matter of just pulling breath in and then letting everything else go. The beauty of your exhale is that the parts that you need to hold on to stay with you. You don't just breathe it all out. This exchange within you knows what to keep in for nourishment and what to let go that you don't need. And so even here in the breath, we have a lesson, a guidepost for life. Each experience that we go through, there are things that will nourish us, that will help our learning, our understanding, and there are things that we can turn loose of that don't serve a purpose. But we have to be able to decipher between what to hang on to and what to let go of. It's not a quick lesson that we will learn in just a matter of a few minutes, but it is something that as we study our breath, we can begin to understand it in all the parts of our life. So let's just sit for these next few breaths together and just really notice the miracle of things that are happening as you breathe out. So sitting a little taller or stretching out a little longer if you're lying down, let's take a long, slow, deep breath in. Pull it up to the crown of your head, hanging on, and then slowly exhale, let it go. Breathing in. Exhale out. And breathing in and letting go. And now let's work on retention. Breathing in and hanging on before you breathe out, holding that breath, letting the body pull the nourishment that it needs, and then exhale, slow, controlled, letting it go. Breathing in. Holding at the top. Slow, controlled, exhale, let it go. And try to continue that rhythm, you on your own rhythm and pace, me on mine. And be amazed. That's one way to keep your mind from wandering. It's one way to stay in the present moment. Be amazed at the miracle of this exchange that's happening within us. Nourishment and release. Holding on to what we need. Letting go of what we don't. And I would invite you, just breathe. Continuing to watch, witness the shift that comes. Yoga Sutra 134 says, our calm is retained by the controlled exhalation or the controlled retention of our breath. And I cannot think of a more beautiful way to leave our practice and go back into our everyday life than with our calm retained. All of a sudden, calm is not something that's available during meditation. It is available every moment of every day. It's not something you have to pack and take with you. It's not something you have to remember to plan for. It exists in your breath. The present moment comes one breath at a time. What a beautiful way to stay present moment focused throughout the day. And the benefit being that we retain our calm. And while the inhale is a beautiful and magical thing, I would invite you in the coming days, be amazed by the retention and be amazed by the exhalation. One breath, one moment at a time. Namaste.